Welcome to Scoop World Order. It is getting hot in Ann Arbor for Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines. We're going to get into all of the latest. The Buckeyes have the Badgers on Saturday. Again, appreciate your support. This show has been going absolutely crazy. Appreciate you guys as always. But we're going to get into the latest, man, because it is getting really bad up in Ann Arbor. Washington Post, huge expose, outside firms searching hard drives. A ton of information is coming out. The rats are coming out in full force. Big Sports Illustrated article. This is how it happens, folks. All of a sudden, the rats start to come out from nowhere and they start talking and chirping. And this is what I did. This is what I know. This is where you need to look. And then the investigators show up and oh boy, it is looking bad for old Jim Harbaugh. That being said, as always, we appreciate you guys. We're very grateful for your support of this channel. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. If you enjoy this content, click that little like button. That is huge for our channel and for this show. Also click the subscribe button and also click the alert button. We go live around 7 every night. We appreciate you guys so much for tuning in, bringing the great questions. If you have a question you're dying to get answered, a super chat automatically gets answered. So ask away, leave us a super chat. We appreciate all of your support as always. And also, I want your prediction. Jim Harbaugh coached his last game at Michigan. Write yes or no in the chat. That being said, I'm going to bring in my favorite king of khakis, Mr. Nevada, Buck Nevada. How are you tonight? This has been a wild run for the last 3 days on Buckeye Scoop, maybe the busiest I've ever seen. But your thoughts on where we're at with Jim Harbaugh and Michigan?
Oh, I think they're done. I think Harbaugh's done. The Washington Post article was timely because we knew it was coming. We knew this information was getting out. Was just a question of when, not a question of if. And in the article, if you guys have had a chance to go into the article, it lays it all out. It lays out there was the names of the people involved, the budgets for the game. This was far. I mean, they didn't go to one Ohio State game. They went to 8. And
Yeah.
you know, for the people that are on the, well, it doesn't really matter if you know what's coming thing. That's the stupidest take in the world. That is so dumb and such a lazy take. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter if we know that what's coming. Yeah, yes, it does matter. The reason we know that it matters is, one, Michigan was winning, and two, the place of honor that this guy got on the Michigan sideline. This guy was sitting on Harbaugh's shoulder.
Yeah.
This guy was sitting on the DC shoulder, talking to them during the Ohio State-Michigan game. Like, you couldn't do that. If you attempted to do that, you would have gotten tased and drug out of the stadium. You try to talk to one of the coaches during the game. Imagine you run up to Urban Meyer during the game and ask him a question.
Oh, God.
He would have he'd have ripped your throat out. So we know this guy was important. We know this, and now because of the information in the Washington Post, we know kind of the scope of the campaign. We know that it was all this information was downloaded onto a central server, which was accessed by the Michigan staff. That's all you need to know. So, like, this is checkmate. This is game over. This is what happened. Now, let me tell you what happens next. What happens next in the story is the guys that were the stringers that were hired to go tape these games, they start coming out with statements. There's like 40 of them, and they're going to come out with statements. And if you've been following this, you know that on message boards all around the country, there have been people that have identified, said, hey, I have a friend, I have a brother, I have a whatever, that's been hired by Michigan to go tape the signals to this other team. Don't think those message boards aren't scouring those guys right now and saying, hey, give us your contact. Who's the person? Who's the thing we want to interview him? It's going to come out. These guys are going to come out. These guys probably got paid $25 and had a ticket to the game. So these aren't master criminals. They're going to flip on this thing. And that'll be the next shoe that's going to drop on this. But this whole thing's coming around very quickly. And for Michigan, there's a cadre of people within Michigan. John Bacon had mentioned Jim Stapleton as a member of the NCAA in the infractions committee, alumni who hates Harbaugh, and he's identified him as being part of the source of this information. I'm just saying there's a lot of powerful people on the side that want to get Harbaugh and they want to get him out of there. They think he's too big for his britches, and this is the perfect excuse. It's all going to happen. It's all falling down on Jimbo, and I know he's done. It's just a question of how quickly he will be done, but he's done. Bye-bye, John.
Yeah, and this thing, I mean, they scanned hard drives. This is an outside firm, came in, raided the place, went through every nook and cranny, and they found, oh boy, did they find a cache of stuff. They found the travel lists, the destinations, the tickets, the pricing. I mean, there's just no. I mean, there's paper trails, and this is like a mountain of paper trails. So it didn't exactly take some sort of a high level sleuth to figure this out. Again, this is the article. It's by Will Hobson. I highly suggest you read it. We have it on BuckeyeScoop.com. But again, the outside search firm was hired, so somebody tipped these guys off, and they said, "Hey, something fishy's going on," and again, we've got our Vegas insiders that are saying, yeah, it was us. I mean, it doesn't smell right. And all of a sudden, some of our guys, our analytics guys, were like, yeah, you guys need to go check these guys out because something doesn't look right, doesn't smell right. And again, when you're running an operation that's this big with this many people, somebody is going to talk. Like, there's loose lips all across something like this. Nevada, is that eventually what brought this down? When you've got people on like On3 message board, I'm going to find that screenshot, literally saying, well, my friend is a scout for Tennessee, and they paid for him to fly to Nashville to watch the Vanderbilt Tennessee game. Back when, Tennessee, you got to remember, last year was in contention to make the playoffs before their quarterback got hurt, and then they ended up, obviously falling off a bridge. But they were a top five-ish team that could make the playoffs, and so they're scouting them. They're sending guys to scout them, and and there's just all these little murmurs and rumors and message boards, and again, like I think it's hilarious. I thought they could get away with this and people wouldn't be talking and singing like canaries. But do you think that's where this all got tipped off? This in your Vegas guys?
Yeah, well, it's going to be to me. What's going to be interesting to see is, was this tied to that whole Weiss investigation? That dismissal and
Yeah.
investigation for I mean, when you hear something, this guy gets dismissed just out of the blue, really quick, really sudden, and he talks about computer access crimes or something like that.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know what the nexus is between that. I've been trying to dig on that and trying to find out what the connection is, but that just seems like a huge coincidence to me because I don't know, that whole situation was just odd. It was just super odd, and the fact that this happened kind of tailing that, where the Vegas information ties with this. Again, when it's all said and done, it'll be interesting to see, how these threads all kind of wove themselves together. But the reality is, you have this guy Stalions, he's a weird guy. Now let me say, every program has one of these guys, and I'm not talking about the sign stealing, code breaking, enigma, Stalions, super genius. I'm talking about the weird super fan. The
Oh
weird
yeah.
super fan that's like desperate to be part of the program,
Yeah.
desperate to hang around the practices or
Oh
be
yeah.
there with the guys, wants
Oh
to be
yeah.
on the staff, dreams. This guy dreamed of running the program, and he had his Michigan manifesto, and he wanted to have people, like-minded people with him to. I mean, it was weird. It was genuinely weird, and
Yeah.
the pitch. He came in there and
Uh,
said, I have a way to bring value to Michigan. I
yep.
guarantee that was the bit.
Yep.
I have a way to bring value to you that I can identify vulnerabilities for you. I was trained by the Naval Academy to code break and identify tactics that can be successful. And Harbaugh's sitting there going, hey man, I'll sell my soul to beat Ohio State. These
Yep.
guys have violated me in every way possible. I can't beat them. What do you got? And he's like, I'll go get their signal. And he's like, great, go do it. You got it. And Master Criminal Stallions did it with a public Venmo, with buying the tickets in his own name. It's just every stupid thing you can do, this guy did. And Michigan's completely culpable. Not only is Harbaugh culpable, whether he knew or not, but he knew. He absolutely. Let's
Oh yeah.
put that aside. He absolutely knew. They all knew. They all. And you'd like to say get rid of Harbaugh, and then you can roll somebody, the DC, the OC, somebody into the spot is in an interim spot, but they were all in on it. They were all in on it, and it's this is I think you've got to just burn the whole thing down and then start over. But again, I want to go back to an earlier point. People that say stuff like this doesn't matter are stupid. You're just stupid if you think it doesn't matter if you know what play's coming or what defense is coming at you. You think of some cosmic accident that all of a sudden we go to cover zero we're bringing a blitz, and they called the perfect play. Now maybe that was an accident, maybe that's just what. But you know something? I'll go to my grave always believing that they had the signals, they stole the signals. We know now that they were at 8 games last year. So you can say, well, why don't you change the signals? Well, over 8 games, they get them all. They get every signal that you use for plays, and you can't change it like every. You only have so much practice time. So yeah, we can talk about huddling. Yeah, we can talk about wristbands. Yeah, we can talk about Ryan Day should have known better. But man, these guys went above and beyond, and enough bad things cannot happen. I hope they burn the whole program down.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, it's fascinating the lengths that this guy went to, because again, you got to remember, like, college football is a mega money profession, and guys under Jim Harbaugh, Sharon Moore, the DC, the position coaches, they want to hang on to these jobs. And man, they were on a hot seat. You know, that COVID year, they dodged Ohio State. They were 2-4. And then they come out of that COVID year and they turn into the 85 Bears and they beat us up there and they make the playoffs twice. They win the Big Ten twice. And, you know, what's the common denominator? All of a sudden they start cheating, you know, and this is a guy, like you said it perfectly. There are guys that would just kill for Ryan Day to know their name. Or they hang around practice, they sit in the golf chair outside the gates of practice, and you know they want to be at the team hotel for the road games, and they bring Ryan Day a birthday cake on his birthday and drop it off at the Woodies. I mean, there are guys that do that, and it is creepy and it is weird. And then this guy was a younger guy, and he wanted to make it his profession. So he's like, well, you know, it's not like they're going to want your magic plays that you've drawn up or your advice on play calling or anything like that. So you know, he figures out a way to systematically get the signals, and he watches, you know, and again, I don't believe for a second that you can watch the TV copies and decipher signals. That's not possible.
No,
Again,
hold on. You can't do that. So for him to say that was just dumb.
Dumb.
Like, they don't show the signals on TV. You can we watch the all 22. They don't show the signals. So this idea that you can get this off I just got it off the TV from watching the television. It's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. That's just a lie. So just stop with that. But anyway, but I interrupted. I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, you're good. But it's like, you know, they're not going to show a signaler, let alone all 3 signalers, because they usually have 1 live guy and 2 dummy signalers. So that's not going to be on the show. But yeah, this is it's fascinating. I mean, Michigan's got this massive PR deal. Ward Manuel and Jim Harbaugh are not friends. They're not really on speaking terms. They've got this adversarial relationship just because, frankly, you know, I mean, Jim Harbaugh's been ultra successful last year's by cheating, but you know, they are undefeated. They are top 3 in the country. You know, before he got there, they were up the creek. They were awful, the Brady Hoke era. So Ward Manuel kind of has to put up with him because he's winning. So it's just like one of those great conundrums. But I did dig up this tweet. I got to put this on the board. This was hilarious. This is from VolQuest on 3 message board. This is from December 1st of 2022. And this random person, Arnie Palmer alert, wrote, "Boy, do I have a story on Michigan. One of my little brother's, quote, friends is a, quote, scout for them. They paid for him to travel to the UT Vandy game and had planned on it before the loss, obviously, to try to steal our signs. He's from Nashville originally, so he just went home even after our losses. It was Thanksgiving. Says he and the others are never allowed to talk to Harbaugh directly about it. And then January 17th, about 8 weeks later, 7 weeks later, no clue if you read the post I was related to, blah, blah, blah. He said they paid lodging, sat right behind the team's bench. Michigan is pulling out all the stops. Guy had tickets to the game. You know, so again, like, that's the thing that's shocking to me is when you have these low-level interns and young coaches or whatever. Like, I don't know how this was pitched to these guys that were doing this, but, you know, hey, you want to break into big-time college football? Hey, you want to get a spot at Michigan? Go do this. Go do this grunt work. Go do this for us. You know, this is like a test. This is what a lot of coaches do. They'll say, this is a test. We want you to break these signals down. Let's see how you do. Let's see how accurate you are. You know, like I famously, when Rob Harley was a former safety at Ohio State, when he wanted to get a job working for Mark D'Antonio as a graduate assistant, Mark D'Antonio said, hey, break down the Super Bowl. Everything. Break down, the whole game, plays, formations, tendencies, break it all down. And and this isn't like there's some template. This is like, no, here, this is the task. Break down the Super Bowl. Have at it. So, for these kids, they're probably like, well, we want you to get the signals. We want you to watch the film, and we want you to crack the code. So they probably had all these kids cracking the codes, and then they had the mastermind, Stalions as like the master code breaker. So, again, this is how like these guys were trying to break into coaching. I'm sure that they were pitched, hey, you'll get a spot on the staff as a entry level recruiting staffer, or in the weight room, or in the film, or as a video guy. Like that's kind of like the entry level spots in the building, and then you'll work your way up to being a GA, and then like a position coach, whatever. So, but yeah, this is going to be fascinating because not only is it going to get Jim Harbaugh fired, but it's going to get, these coaches are going to have a big old nasty black eye. And then a lot of these young guys are never going to get jobs because they're all going to get named as these things come out. Nevada, do you think there are more bombs coming in the coming days now that the Bloodhound media, the Pete Thamels and those types are on the case?
Oh, no question. I mean, when it goes mainstream, when it goes Washington Post with New York Times like retweeting it and stuff like that, I mean, you've officially kind of crossed over into the mainstream. And so now, yeah, they're on the scent. Everybody's on the hunt every day. We've lived this before. When Tressel, I remember this. I remember thinking that this was the most horrible thing that I'd ever heard in the history of college football, was the allegation that Jim Tressel had rigged a raffle at some football camp to
oh my God,
or something like that.
That was the best ever.
Terrible. It was awful. It was just awful. I was just thinking, how dare you, Jim? How dare you do this? But now it's been topped by systematic stealing of signs and organized cheating ring that saved Michigan. Basically, it saved Harbaugh's college career. I mean, it really did. I mean, he was circling the drain.
Oh yeah.
Before this happened.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was absolutely dumb. Like you said, they dodged us in 2020, which that they tapped out. That's what we all know. Everybody gets it. That's great. Dave probably would have hung 100 on him that day, but they tap out. They go to this, and then they just magically get better.
Like way better. Not magically, like way better.
Yeah, and it's supposed to. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It might matter 1%. It's like, it matters, man. It completely matters. And the fact, like I said, that this jamoke is running around the sidelines, just sitting whispering into Jim Harbaugh's ear, run same play again, and stuff like who would have the audacity to do something like that unless you were just held in such high esteem, unless you've got just the crown jewels. There's no way you're given that kind of access, man. This is not some low-level staffer or something like that. This is the man. This is the straw that stirs the drink. This is the guy that saved Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Somebody compared him to Steve Bartman, that unfortunate soul that touched the ball into the thing. And I'm like, Bartman was just wrong place, wrong time. The Michigan fans are going to put up a statue of this guy. I mean, this is the guy that saved their program. Like they're like, oh man, we're going to lose all this stuff, but we can cheat and try to save ourselves. Let's cheat. We'll cheat, and we'll just take our chances in terms of doing it. Well, I mean, I like I said, this to me is the worst cheating scandal in the history of college football. I just think it is. It goes right to forget paying players, forget raffles and tattoos, and forget all that stuff. This goes right to, I mean, the only thing that could top this would be if somebody was like actually bribing the referees, and you could actually prove that they bribed the refs before a game. That's the only way that you could top this. This is untoppable other than that. So, I mean,
even so, like knowing the player, I mean, obviously, the Tim Donaghy stuff where he's like, calling fouls and extra, whatever, like that's as bad as it can get. But like, when the team's plays, man, I mean, that's almost as advantageous as having a referee in your pocket because, we know it's a run. We know it's a pass. Magically, like James Franklin was perfect. I don't know if you guys heard James Franklin's clip. I'll pull it up for tomorrow's podcast, but he talked about how he's like, when we go heavy personnel, which is heavy's like 3 tight ends, a fullback, like big fat dudes all across the line on like 4th and 1. And we decide to call a shot. A shot is like throw it deep. And for some reason, they're magically in cover 2, which is like 2 deep safeties. It's a good, defense that you call to defend the pass, not to stop a short yardage run. It's like they call a shot and magically they're in 2 high safeties. Like he's like, the way he coined it was literally perfect. Now, I'm not a James Franklin guy, but the way he coined it was perfect. He's like, when the defenses that they're calling just seem too good to be true every single time, like literally like they're in the perfect call every single time, then you get that something's up. When you call, like you said, when you're throwing it out of, basically goal line personnel to convert, and they've got two deep safeties on a long ball. That's like the perfect coverage. You'd expect it to be in short yardage. I mean, you guys know what short yardage defense looks like. You guys watch a lot of football. You guys are a really smart crew. You see, 3 linebackers in the game, 5 or 6 defensive linemen, a couple corners, maybe a safety. I mean, it's a big, heavy crew. You don't see 2 deep safeties, but that summed it up. Just gonna read a couple synopses of the Washington Post article because this is amazing. So, they talk about the most targeted school, of course, was Ohio State. They went on 8 trips. I don't get the 3,000 number unless they're sitting on top of the stadium, but scouts plan to attend as many as 8 games, costing more than $3,000 in travel and tickets, which I think that is a very low number. I'd probably add a 0. Next on the list was Georgia. So they were going to spend $3,000 on Ohio State, $3,000 on Georgia, and then about $15,000 by year end. To scout more than 40 games played by 10 opponents. So, I mean, so honestly, Nevada, the next shoe to drop for me is who's paying for this? He's not making $55,000, which after taxes is like $30,000, and spending $15,000 on travel. It's probably closer to $30,000 on travel if you do it over a couple of years and, round up, for the cost of whatever. And then throw out a little bit of chump change for these guys. But is that the next shoe to drop? Is it a big donor? Is it the foot? I mean, I can't imagine that you could turn that in on the expense report for the program. Because again, like that would raise a giant red flag with the accounting firm or the accounting department if they're like, why is this intern ringing up $30,000 worth of tickets and airfare and all the other? Is that the next shoe to drop?
Absolutely. And now I think it was coming out of the program. I really do. I think that I think this was a very low tech caper. I think they, probably submitted, reimbursements for T-shirts or whatever the heck they were doing on his public Venmo. And, while you think about 8 games for Ohio State at $3,000 and you go, wow, that seems kind of crazy. Well, if you're buying singles,
and you're driving like day of. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you have a kid in Columbus. You have a kid in Columbus that's doing it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's totally doable. You know what I'm saying? Like that, if the person's in there and he's buying a single for $350 or $300 for a single, yeah, that's completely doable. That's completely within the thing. It wouldn't. I think that was the allure of this whole caper. Was this guy comes in and goes, look, this is low dollars, high impact.
Yeah.
For $15,000, I can get you all the plays that your hated rival you're gonna know what they're gonna run on offense. You're gonna know what they're gonna run on defense. You're gonna know, and for Harbaugh that was priceless, man. So for him, he would have paid this out of his pocket. Jim Harbaugh makes
$1 are you kidding me?
a year or something.
Yeah,
$15,000 is nothing to him. So it's like
he's making like $800,000 a month right now. He can afford $15,000.
Yeah, to save his legacy. Like, come on. Hey Jay, just pay the Jamoke and I'll reimburse you or I'll give you extra money around Christmas time. Okay, Dad, let's go do this.
Sure. Yeah, and again, the interesting thing is to me is this was all triggered by an outside firm's investigation. So somebody became a tipster and they decided to rat on the program and say, and I don't know if it was someone outside of the program, inside the program. That's what's going to be fascinating as this thing all winds down as Jim Harbaugh is terminated and they clean houses. Who tipped these guys off? Because you bring in, this outside firm probably spent $1 million doing forensic accounting of the computer systems. When you're in these university computer systems, every keystroke that you input is encrypted and they can trace. I worked at Ohio State. I know anything you do on a company computer, again, like the famous Jim Tressel thing, he sends the email on his Ohio State email server. This guy's buying stuff on the company computer, on the company internet, and they can trace all that. So, I don't really think it was that big of an endeavor, but I'm sure they probably had to sweep. These guys were, taking hard drives and full sweeps, sweeping phones. This was this is like some boiler room, Bernie Madoff investigation where they storm in and take all the hard drives and they sweep them all. But it's completely fascinating to me that, can you imagine these guys show up all of a sudden they grab all the hard drives, they grab all the phones, and you still got to coach because this started at the beginning of the season. But again, Nevada, like who do you think tipped these guys off?
Well, again, I think it was a combination. Whether this was the Weiss investigation, whether this was Stapleton trying to make a move, whether this was born out of Las Vegas, or a combination of all three of those things, kind of meeting. I just ask, can you imagine? Let's just play what if game for just a second. What if this was? Let's change the name from Jim Harbaugh to Urban Meyer, and from
Oh
Michigan
God.
to Ohio State.
Oh God.
Can you imagine the faux outrage
oh,
on
oh,
if this had happened that way, and they're like, "This is why Meyer beat us 7 years in a row." I mean, I just can't even
oh.
imagine what the Michigan men would be saying today.
You'd have all those guys. I mean, I remember like during the Tressel thing. I mean, they're camping out outside of our training table and outside the building. I mean, there would be like ESPN guys, Sports Illustrated guys, Sporting News, the local media. I mean, they were everywhere. I mean, they're like parasites. I mean, that's the funny thing is like, those guys turn on you quick. Super chat, Kevin Tate, appreciate you, brother. If you guys have super chats, you guys have a question, you want to answer, send us a super chat. Nevada, I'm going to ask you, do you think that Michigan knew the exact play or that it was just a runner pass only? And what is the impact of both? Do you want me to take that or do you want to take it?
You go ahead. I'll let you take a stab.
All right, I'll take it first. So I think that on certain instances, like for the runs, they probably knew the exact run just because, the runs, here is something that nobody ever talks about. When you do signaling, a running play is literally like 13 is like 1, 3, and then book. That was our zone running play signal. So it's like literally three little things. It's like 1, 3, book. So for a passing play, it is it's like 52. Then it's like, it's like a motion, it's the formation, it's the protection, and then it's the route concept. So the thing that, really smart coaches figure out really fast against Ohio State and really against anybody is passing signals are way, way longer than running signals. So for the running plays, I think they got the exact play. For the passing plays, I think it was more just, they might have gotten that, okay, so there's a protection. We got the signal for the protection, so it is a pass. I don't know if they could decipher the exact route tree because it's such a long signal. And again, there's also multiple people signaling things in between the line and the receivers. So on the runs, I think they absolutely had the runs. On the passes, they probably knew it was a pass, but they probably didn't know, like, hey, run to this spot on the field because that's where Marvin Harrison's going to run to and stand there and catch the ball when it's thrown. So, but again, like if you know the exact run, even if you know that it just is a run, that's huge. But I think with the runs, they knew the exact runs. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
No, it's a great point. Passing plays just take longer to signal in. There's just more stuff going on than on the running plays. And, I just know from my own coaching at a really low level, if I know if the other team's going to run or pass, that makes a huge difference. That makes a huge difference. So that's not incidental. That's not incidental. And if you know that, and you can kind of fine tune that, and for Michigan, they probably would get better as the game went along, and that's why in the second half they're like just magic warlocks in the second half all of a sudden. So it's helpful in the first quarter, really helpful in the second quarter. By the third quarter, they got it dialed in, and by the fourth quarter, man, they know exactly what you're going to do. And so, look, it was great for them and good on them. They have the Michigan fans, if you're listening, you have the memories. We're not going to take the memories from you because you have the memories and you can do it around. But in terms of the wins, this stuff's going to get vacated. So you're going to have to put away all your Michigan gear. You're going to have to put it back into just mothballs again for like another 15 years until we see you guys scurry out again on thing, because this one's over. And for, Michigan's not going to be able to get past this. Everyone, can you imagine them going into the playoff with just the cheater stuff? And I mean, it's going to be relentless. Fans are not going to let this go. And this is a giant black eye for that program, for a program that's just obsessed with protecting their brand. This couldn't be more, brand detrimental if they went out and planned it. And This is truly destructive, and I think that's why they'll get ahead of it and try to mitigate the damage as quickly as they can.
All right, we got one from Blue Wolverine. Blue Wolverine, appreciate you guys showing up. There's a ton of Michigan people in here fighting with our people in the chat. It makes it very lively and very fun. So thank you guys for showing up. Nevada, who's the best team in college football right now? Be honest, gentlemen.
The best team in college football right now. Right now, today, the best team in college football? I mean, Florida State, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Georgia?
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
I mean, if Brock Bowers is hurt, are we talking today? Are we talking like he's healthy for the playoffs? Like that's a huge difference because he's their X factor.
Yeah, he makes a difference. I mean, look, there's no great team in college football this year. You know, there's no boogeyman, there's no Baba Yaga, there's some really good teams that are going to be battling out to the end. And look, I think Ohio State's improving every week. Do I think they're the best team in college football right now? No, but by the end of the year, they sure as heck might be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that, again, football is a combination of continuous improvement during the season and a ton of luck. Luck is so important in these college football seasons because, frankly, let's be real, we're one injury away from not being real good. We're one injury away from having Lincoln Keenholz as our quarterback, knock on wood. We saw Devin Brown go down with an ankle. Again, it's a war of attrition. Like Tennessee last year looked great until Hendon Hooker got hurt towards ACL, and all of a sudden they weren't so great. So again, it's a lot of luck. It's a lot of just, keep fighting, keep winning. Ball bounces the right way. You keep winning by 1 point. Just win by 1 point every week, and you're good.
Kirk, before you go to that, I mean, think about Michigan. Michigan wasn't any good, and then Connor Stalions came along, and then they got good. See, one little thing. One little thing can make all the difference for you. Like, hey, we now know every offensive.
We know everything they're going to do.
They're going to do. Wow. Okay, that's good. That's good. Keep it up. Okay, sorry. But
no, it's like if we get to go enter the World Series of Poker, and I can say, hey, Nevada, I get to tell you every card that everyone else has as you play. You're like, really? Wow.
Yeah, you should have one of those. You should have one of those eye patches like Robert Wagner had in the Austin Powers movies or something like that, so you could see the whole card on the playing blackjack. Hit 18 and something. Hitting 18.
Yeah, he's like hitting on like 20. Like, the ace comes. Like, I'll get that little thing on my knee, like in casino, that the little guy's like banging on his knee, and then all of a sudden, like the guy knew when to hit, when not to hit, and then he got his hand broke. I'm gonna just go back to this Washington Post thing because this thing is absolutely unbelievable. The thing that's going to be interesting is as this thing becomes public, because you have to understand this has been presented to the University of Michigan. There are going to be a flurry of open record requests because they are a public institution. So I'm sure the media are just, filling out that little form that says, give me all of your info. They've got photos of people sitting at games of Michigan's opponents. I mean, this is the best part. There's photos of these people sitting there aiming their cell phones at the sidelines, so, cell phone videos depicting the coaching staffs, uploaded to the computer. I mean, this is all like they took the videos, they uploaded them to the computer servers. So this firm, who obviously is an ultra professional forensic firm that can go through all these servers, go through these videos, they found all this stuff. Like they put it on the servers. Like I mean, cell phone videos depicting the coaching staffs from these games were uploaded to a computer drive maintained and accessed by Stalions, as well as several other Michigan assistants and coaches. So, when Matt Weiss gets whacked in the middle of the night and they say, oh, well, he's, he had to go bye-bye. And it was this kind of random and out of the blue. And it was like a Friday night news dump type thing. Like, that's kind of the kill shot to me. I mean, your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, I think that is the kill shot. I mean, can you imagine a better documented caper than this one? I mean, they've got it all. They've got the names, they've got the dates, they got the budget, they've got the receipts, they've got the people, they've got pictures of I mean, short of them having like tapes of him talking, and you pretty much have that as well. So like this is game over. Like there's no escaping this one for Harbaugh. This is checkmate. It's over for Jimbo. Just a question of when, no longer if, and it's happening.
Yeah, and got a super chat, Gary Jones. Appreciate you, my man. If they were tampering with state government university reimbursement reports, How would that not be tampering with a government record? That's a felony. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Because, like, these, I had to do expense reports. I did like 2 when I was there. I mean, I didn't have many expenses, but if I had to go travel or something or go to the coaches convention, like, you do a little expense report, but like, you just put in your receipts, put in the numbers, whatever. It's super easy. But like, if all of a sudden some $50,000 a year employee is ringing up $20,000 in tickets and airfare and hotels, like, somebody in the accounting department is going to ask a question. They're not just going to be like, why are we buying all these tickets to go see Clemson and Tennessee and, go watch Ohio? Why do we need to buy tickets to go watch Ohio State 8 times? Like, what's that for? So again, I don't think that he used a company. Now, again, I say that, but I'm also worrying that every time I say something like that, I look stupid, because then I realize that these guys were uploading the videos that they took to a University of Michigan computer server, which, again, once that thing's on that server, you're never getting rid of it. You can't delete it. It's there forever. If you think it's deleted, it's not deleted. Everything's backed up, encrypted, whatever. So, like, again, they probably thought it was on there, tried to delete it. This firm found everything. So, I don't know. I mean, if these guys had expense reports where they're turning in all these, deals, like that would be amazing to stunning. But I don't know. Nevada, do you think that they actually put that on a real expense report for the University of Michigan? Because I thought this was a kill shot. That would be the absolute kill shot.
I really do. I really do. I think that they did that. And now I don't know that. I just think that. But
yeah,
when you look at the preponderance, the complexity of this scheme, which is not really particularly complex or really particularly well thought out, I think it went on university expense reports. And you're right. You say, well, why did somebody in accounting? Look, because everybody freaking knew. Everybody knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Harbaugh knew, accounting knew, the assistant coach knew, the other players knew when they were all doing the simultaneous rumba dance, pointing to the sky for the pass and everything like that. They all knew. They all knew.
When they're all getting fitted for their Big Ten championship rings, they didn't care.
They didn't care, man. They didn't care. And Harbaugh and all his holier than, you shouldn't have to cheat. That video of him talking about cheating is just particularly delicious, because, I mean, dude, you're the biggest cheater in the history of college football, and you just got busted, and it's just so bad. Everything about it is just bad. But this changes my perception of what happened with Ryan Day, and maybe not so much in 2021, even though I think that's fair to even bring that one into question. Certainly for 2022, when they were at their peak in terms of doing this. But look, this, I think this changes everything. This will change everything about the way that people remember Jim Harbaugh's time at Michigan. And I think people are going to be talking about this one for years. This particular cheating scandal isn't going to, the way we talk about like the Fab Five in basketball, I think this is exponentially worse. I really do. Because
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm paying players has been around. Look, Sam Walton did that for UCLA, or not Sam Walton. Sam, what was his? I can't remember. Whatever. But UCLA had their Sam Gilbert. They had their guy, and but this is just it's bad and it's stupid. And did it affect competitive advantage? Abso-freaking-lutely, it affected it. It is the reason that Michigan turned it around and all of a sudden became this statistical outlier in defensive efficiency, offensive efficiency, gambling, everything. That became this
against the spread. They dominate all of a sudden.
All just like magic, and it's like it all coincided with this loser coming out there and just saying, I can steal your signs. And Jim Harbaugh's like, what a great plan. Just don't get me involved. I want plausible deniability. Work with my genius son, Jay. He'll handle it for me. That'll insulate me.
Oh, my God. I got a super chat. Appreciate this. KB, as a former player, what are our guys who lost to them feeling when this type of thing comes out? Well, obviously, they're not going to get to line up in the 2002 team versus the 2002 team and redo the game. So, that's over. They got to walk off the field on senior day feeling miserable, defeated. Obviously they didn't get to win the Big Ten East. They didn't get to win the Big Ten championship. So they lost a lot of the stuff that are their goals to start the season. I mean, your goal is to get to Indianapolis, win the Big Ten. And then from there you go to the playoffs. But your number one goal at Ohio State is to get to Indy. You get to Indy, you win that one, and then you got a shot to win the big one, the big ring. So, I think that, you're gonna feel cheated. I mean, you're gonna feel like, like, wow, these guys really are on, when you're calling stuff and they just happen to be perfectly defended every single time. Like, eventually you're gonna be like, man, these guys must be really on one. It's like they have Gray's Sports Almanac. Like, they went and saw Biff, and they're all of a sudden like, man, they know exactly where Marvin was going to be, and they called the perfect blitz at the perfect time, and and they knew exactly what defense we were going to be in. So they threw it deep when we're in cover zero, and magically they scorched us. So I don't know. I mean, I feel bad for the kids. I remember the image of Dewan walking the field crying in Paris, and we killed them in the first half, and then magically it was like we were stuck in mud in the second half, and that was as talented of a team as we've had, probably since that 19 team, and certainly the 2015 team. But you look at Paris Dewan, you look at Marvin, Emeka, CJ Stroud, who's going to be the rookie of the year in the NFL. Like, that was as shocked as I think I've ever been outside of the 15 Michigan State game, in terms of how good we were, how motivated we were after we got waxed in Ann Arbor, and we had to hear about it all year. And then for us to come out in that second half, I mean, I was like, something just wasn't right, and people say, oh, it was Knowles and the defense, and the offense didn't score and whatever. But I'm like, no, they just do all the plays. So, I mean, it makes your life a million times easier, as in any sport, when you know what's coming. If you're a batter in the box, if you're whatever, it just makes your life a lot easier. So we'll wrap this thing up, Nevada. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I can't wait for tomorrow. It's like
like Christmas every day.
It's like Christmas every day. Michigan is the gift that keeps on giving. And again, I'm going to predict. I predicted last week. I think the anti-Ohio State people will try to come out with some story. They've already tried to name some lower level staff guy and say, "Oh, that's their guy," and they're going to try to play the deflection game. And then the stringers for Michigan are going to start coming out, and those articles are going to start hitting as well. And then maybe we'll start seeing, the money. We'll find out whether or not how this was reimbursed and where the money came from. But I think that's all going to come in the next 24, 48 hours. So I can't wait. This is like Christmas.
That is like Christmas. All right, brother. I'll catch up with you. I'm going to get B. Moses in here. We're going to go live to my man, B. Moses. B. Moses, we are live right now. We have a huge crew on here. Your thoughts on the wildness that is Ohio State football, Michigan game, all the stuff going on. You're a fresh set of eyes. Nevada and I talk basically every night, so I'm dying to hear what you're thinking about all this.
Man, listen, I was just checking another notification on my phone with this scum stuff, bro. Like, this scum stuff is crazy. And the levels of delusion is otherworldly. They still don't get it. They're still, it's like watching
the Titanic.
It's
like the Titanic's up in the air and it's starting to get, the lights are turning off and it breaks in half, and then that's what it feels like to me.
Yo, like it's insane, the levels of denial. And Steve the Ace, if you're out there listening, you, sir, are a clown. You, Sam Webb, if you're listening to this, you, sir, are a clown. These are the cats who lead these scum fans, into this delusional, narrative. Let's shape this narrative in our little message board and go out to the social media and spread it. Like, dude, like it's a wrap. Y'all understand that, right? This is not some how can I put it? Drummed up lies and rumors. Like, do y'all understand who's behind this? The Washington Post just dropped the article. Like, this is real. And listen, stop saying everybody steals signs. This is not stealing signs in game. Kurt in Nevada hit this earlier. A bunch of other people hit this earlier. Stop playing dumb. Either you really dumb or you playing dumb. This is not traditional stealing signs in game. This is an operation. They got receipts. They got surveillance. Like, what are you talking about right now? Like, do y'all understand that? And so Kurt, from just a fan standpoint, and my boys can vouch for this, man. We just thinking, like, at first we was like, okay, maybe this ain't nothing. A couple weeks, maybe a week ago, and now we just like, yo, like these cats really cheated. Like they really cheated. Like for those who don't think this is not a competitive advantage, you're insane. You either don't know ball or you just not that smart. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you know if it's going to be a pass or a run, that gives you an extreme advantage. There was a Georgia Bulldog media guy earlier who made a simple but profound statement. He talked about the play action play. He said if knowing the calls doesn't matter, then like why does play action work? Like stop being a goofy.
Yeah.
Like this is crazy. Who was that you, Kirk, who said Scum at the end of this may own the two biggest scandals in college basketball and
Oh,
football. I feel okay.
yeah.
That
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, outside of SMU and the death penalty, I mean, this is like, and this one I think is much worse than the Fab Five. Again, guys getting paid when they're destitute, like that doesn't bug me. Chris Webber making money, that doesn't bug me. That's all legal now, but it's never going to be legal to video, get the signals, know the plays, call the defense based on what the signaler is giving you. Like, I mean, again, it's just, it's screen watching in Madden. Like if you're playing Madden on the couch against your buddy and you see, oh, he's got 3 pass plays called, oop, I better go nickel, better go cover 2, cover 3. I'm not going to run, an all out blitz and get scorched, So again, like James Franklin said, and I am not a James Franklin guy, but when he was at his press conference, he talked about how, when we're in 4th and short and we get the fullbacks and 2 tight ends in and we call a shot play being a deep throw, and they just happen to be in cover 2. And there's nothing in our tendencies, there's nothing in the universe that would ever suggest that we would throw on 4th and short with heavy personnel, and they just happen to be in cover 2, then it stinks a little too much. And again, as I talked about with Nevada, when they get this firm in here, I mean, when you're hiring like a forensic accounting firm, those guys are no joke. And when you're uploading, they're uploading these videos onto a public video server, like not a public, a private video server within the University of Michigan's football facility. Those videos never go away. Those things are backed up, encrypted. You can't delete them. So the audacity and like the cyber paper trail these guys left is almost like mind blowing. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, so you guys put these on the public server. So that opens it up to freedom of information requests, because again, the university, there's going to be reporters requesting everything, every email that this Stalions kid ever wrote, every text message, because the university emails are at stake, the videos are at stake, the cell phones are at stake. Any communication, anything that those guys ever did within the public sphere or on a publicly paid for cell phone is up for grabs, so every ticket transaction, credit card, expense report. So, guys like, Thamel and all these investigative guys, they're filling out the Freedom of Information Request Act, and they're asking for everything and everything Harbaugh knew and everything Jay Harbaugh knew and everything every coach knew. So this thing, again, that's why I just feel like eventually, if the body is riddled with cancer, and it's a lame animal, you just got to put it out of its misery and put a bullet in its head. And that's why I think Harbaugh's done. It's my opinion.
Yeah, and listen, on that note, that's a great segue. Let me ask you, let's talk about this because I've been kind of in a debate with a few chats earlier about this. So, what do you think makes the most sense? The Big Ten allowing Scum to finish the regular season and ban them from post-game, Big Ten championship and playoffs, or on this bye week, just declare them dead for the season. It's a wrap. You can't play no more games. You're done. And I'll tell you what my thoughts are.
I think you stop it right now. I mean, in my opinion.
Ooh, okay.
And again, that might be wrong, but again, like if they run the table, they beat Ohio State and then they're banned from everything. Like, and again, we did that in 2012 when we had the bowl ban and eliminated from everything. So, but I think that, when you see how they've won, how much better they've gotten over the last 2 years since they've been doing this. Like, it's not some cosmic accident when these guys, they go from being 2-4 the COVID year, and then they become the 85 Bears the last 2 years and amazing. Yeah. They become amazing on defense. And it's not like they opened up a pipeline of recruits from 5-star kids from Georgia and Florida and Texas all started going. It's not like they're like Texas A&M last year when NIL happened and they got 10 5-stars on defense, and those guys were all ballers. Like, this is the same 3-star turds that they've had, 3- and 4-star players that magically became really good because they knew where to go. But I'll let you finish your statement.
No, cool. I'm glad you interjected with that because, first of all, to be fair, we don't know. This is not something we're used to. I can't remember anything like this ever. This is unprecedented, right? So, with that said, I think because the Big Ten has a responsibility to make sure all of their institutions are good, I can see them allowing them playing for the rest of the regular season, because think about the revenue lost at the other schools. Think about the other kids maybe on their
Yep.
senior night,
Yep.
playing
Yep.
against scum. So you got to consider all of those things from a Big Ten CEO standpoint. So I think, in my opinion, that's the best thing to do. But also selfishly, I still want to play them. I don't care about none of this crap. I want to go up to Ann Arbor. I was confident at the beginning of the year that we were going to progress and grow and get to a place where we were ready to go up to Ann Arbor and beat them, regardless of this stuff. So selfishly, I still want to play them. But just, fiscally responsible and thinking about all the institutions, I think it makes logical sense to let them finish out the regular season and declare them banned from the postseason. So regardless of what happens, they're not going.
Yeah.
But they still get to play the regular season, so the other schools don't suffer and the other young men don't get to suffer and play less games because of scum. That's just how I feel.
I think that's a great position. I think it fits perfectly. I mean, I think that the only counter to that is if they don't play, then you just give them, Michigan loses their share of the TV money. They get a massive fine from the Big Ten, and that money goes to reimburse, Penn State and Maryland and Ohio State for the games lost. Again, this isn't about dodging Michigan. This is about severe penalties. Because again, the thing you have to do with something like this is you have to hit Michigan so hard that nobody ever thinks to do this again. And again, SMU got hit with the death penalty and they're back, and I see them playing on Saturdays, but they're not to the level that they once were. They used to be a powerhouse, when they had Dickerson and Alberts and, when they were really cooking and buying every player known to man. But they've never reached that pinnacle since the death penalty. So, you got to do something like that with Michigan, because you have to set the tone, because now that this is out there, and again, I'm totally not suspecting that Michigan is the only school in the country that's doing stuff like this. I'm sure that there's, because in the SEC, they do stuff like this. They just don't get caught because they're not dumb. They're way, way, way more sophisticated than this kid who's, just as ham-handed as you could be. Like, I think that there's a lot more sophisticated ways to do this. There's, you could, again, that's just my opinion. I think that, if you have a luxury suite in the home stadium, you could, tape the signals from there. Nobody will say a word. Nobody would know. There's not going to be like a bunch of people in the stands wondering why you're holding your iPhone for 3 straight hours looking at the three signalers, like, because that's part of, like, in this Washington Post deal where they talked about how people were turning in these strange photos of people sitting there with their iPhones looking at the signalers and videoing the signalers. And, people, you don't have to be some sort of cosmic genius to figure out that, well, that looks weird. They're not even watching the game. They're just watching the signalers, and, they watch the signalers. They take a photo of the scoreboard, see what time it is, video the play, then go back to the signalers, and then they can kind of patch all that together in a video system, which is what they did. And I don't know. I just think that,
I'm grateful he's stupid. I'm grateful he's
oh God. Yeah.
Like, for real. Because I'm glad he didn't do what you just said do and was smarter. Like, I mean, like, bro, this is insane. The levels of stupidity is insane. The levels of desperation is insane.
No.
I mean, like, and then, like, look, man, you got D coordinators and O coordinators on the sideline with this dude on their hip, feeding him. You don't think this is ever going to come out? Like, this is blatant. It was right under our noses, but you don't think? I mean, I don't know. Look, I always thought scum was delusional and arrogant. They had a combination of delusion and arrogance, and I think we're seeing it on display right now to the highest degree. I'm still processing it, Kirk. It's just I'm blown away by this, man.
Well, yeah, and like the weird thing is I think people are now going to start to investigate who's around these coaches a little bit more, because now, in general, like with Ryan Day, when you watch Ryan Day, the guy who is always behind him is Quinn Temple. He's the director of football operations, and with Urban Meyer, the guy that was right behind him was Brian Voltolini, and they were both literally their get-back coaches. They would literally grab them by their pants and pull them back when they'd get on the field. They'd get in the restricted white area, because again, Ryan Day's gotten a couple penalties for encroaching on the area where the referees are, those referees that are with the play, they're running up and down that white. And if you're standing in the white and they hit you, that's a penalty. Or if you're too close, they'll call a sideline warning, sideline infraction, whatever. So that, guys like Urban and guys like Ryan, who are very animated on the sideline, and they're really into the game and they like to venture out onto the field and drift a little bit, like you got to have guys that yank them back. And hey, because again, they get in that zone. They are locked in and they don't know where they're at. They don't see where they're at. They're just so focused on the play that they might venture into a spot where they're not supposed to be. And you'll see Quinn Temple yank it on Ryan Day, and you'll see when Urban coach, you'll see Volt. But it's like that's the other interesting thing about this kid is like nobody ever said like who is this kid? And he's next to Jim Harbaugh, and again nobody notices because like when the camera's on the D coordinator or Jim Harbaugh, they're just looking at Jim. I mean nobody's like well who's this kid? And you probably don't patch it all together that he just happens to be next to the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, and the head coach. And generally, in a football capacity, there's kind of like this line of the defensive coaches and GAs and interns are over here, the offensive guys are over here, head coach is kind of in the middle of it all. But you don't see a guy that's wandering between all sides just because that's not how it works on game day. Like in game day, you kind of have like two different, factions. You have the defense and the offense, and you're both trying to hold the rope and do your part. But this guy was wandering back and forth, and he was right next to the most powerful guys at Michigan. And I mean, and there's for a good reason. Because again, this was a guy, and again, there's a part of me deep down that understands this kid. This kid, he was trying to make it. He wanted to figure out a way to be a part of the team, be a part of the program, add value. Now, what he did, I'm not condoning. I think obviously it's illegal, and he's gonna bring the program down to its knees. But he wanted to get into the program, and when you're a young coach and you're not making any money and you're an intern, you got to figure out a way to add value to the program. You're not going to go to Jim Harbaugh or Sharon Moore, the offensive coordinator, and say, "Hey, coach, here's my cool running plays I drew up," or "Hey, coach, here's a cool drill that I found on YouTube." It's like, no, hey, coach, I can predict every single play that Ohio State's going to run. Is that valuable to you? And they're just like, really? You can? Here's my project. I videoed all their signals. I broke down all their signals, and here's my splicing of all their runs versus the exact signal it is. And and you can test me on it. And I've again, that's what this guy did. Like, I mean, I think that he's a military guy. I'm sure that he drilled this into him where probably had like flashcards or something, and let me test myself. Okay, this signal is a run to the right side. This is a pass protection. Again, like if you get to know it cold enough, when it's something like Ohio State, and I'm sure he put a lot of effort into it, like he's going to know that stuff, and he'll be able to pick off what Justin Fry's signaling in. And again, like the thing that's that he had to do when you are Ohio State, they have three signalers. They have Justin Fry, Mike Salini, and they have a third guy. And one of those guys is live, and the other two guys are dummy signalers. So,
Right.
He had to figure out who's the live guy today. Is it Justin Fry? Is it Mike? And, so when we run a zone play to the right, and okay, the zone play to the right, okay, that guy signaled a pass, that guy signaled another play. Oh, that guy signaled the run play. That's the live guy. Like that's what he had to figure out on that first drive. And that's why we marched down and scored, and it looked easy. But as he figured out who the live guy was that day, in the second half, I mean, it was like they turned the faucet off, and all of a sudden we couldn't pee a drop the whole second half. So, I think that this was sophisticated. This was a guy trying to make his mark. And again, like, I think you're stupid if you don't think there's more schools doing stuff like this. They're just not as dumb, because again, this was a couple levels away from being able to get pulled off. If you burner phones, another layer of sophistication, because when this thing spider webs out, and you get like 40 different scouts, and they're all talking, and they tell their uncle, and their uncle's on a message board, and he's writing about it, and that's where it all comes to a head. Because you're just not, more than two people know it's not a secret anymore, and loose lips sink ships.
Right.
But your thoughts on all that, B. Moses? That was a lot, but I mean that's just kind of where I feel this thing was.
I mean, put it like this: I have no evidence or idea if there's any other operations like this at other schools. We don't know. Maybe there is, but the reason why I'm even hesitant to even entertain that is because I'm tired of hearing scum fan excuses and them trying to wiggle out of this. Well, everybody else is doing it. I bet you're doing. No, like, nah. This is next level. And until you provide evidence from other schools doing this, then I don't want to talk about it. And I'll quickly pivot to this, Kirk. This is why I'm also starting to get real annoyed with all this, with scum fans still in denial, still making it seem like it's not a big deal, trying to make it seem like we just, sour grapes. Scum fans made a big, like a huge deal over tattoos, as if it made. Listen, I
Oh,
remember Tatgate very vividly, and it
oh,
still upsets me of how the reaction was over kids trading their memorabilia for tattoos, as if
oh,
it magically made them run faster on the field or jump higher or throw longer. You would have thought scum fans, the way they was just going off like, oh my God, you're cheating. No, like, okay, yeah, Tressel did his thing with the NCAA. He wasn't forthright about, certain things. And that's why he got popped. But the outrage, the moral outrage, as if
oh,
the
of course.
players were in a position to have an advantage on the field, and now
Oh,
you want to try to play this down like this is not an advantage. Man, get out of here, man. Like that's the thing
oh,
that really pisses me off with scum
oh,
fans is like y'all supposed to be holier than thou, high horse morals and leaders of the what. Man, get out of here with that. Listen, as
oh,
soon as all this stuff is officially done and the Big Ten comes out and they lay down whatever they're gonna lay out, or the NCAA, I'm going in on
oh,
social
yeah.
media.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
y'all wait
absolutely.
and see.
This
Y'all
is gonna
wait
be
and
like
see.
this is gonna be like your version of Ether, basically.
Yes.
All right, Nicholas Smith, super chat. B Moses, I'm gonna throw this one to you. Appreciate this, and then I'll hit it after B Moses. Is Michigan that really that good? And do they deserve to be ranked where they are when they've been cheating all year? That's a
I mean
great question.
that is a great question. I mean, it's tough to
Oh,
gauge. I'm not going to sit here and act like without the cheating, Scum is going to go from where they are to UTEP. All of a sudden, I do think they have some talent. They have some talent. I do think Mentor, is a good coach, right? But just I'm still examining like all the information. Like, go look at the spreads in the second halves of some of these games and
yeah.
what they're doing in second halves. Remember, they were struggling with Bowling Green until later in that game. You know what I mean? So it just kind of makes you
Oh,
wonder. Like, I'm not going to say they
oh,
trash, but I do think they're a peg lower than what they are for sure. It's just hard to gauge because you just don't know exactly the depths of what they're doing in game with the cheating. But we know
yeah.
they cheating.
Yeah, and again, like even if they're just getting, like I said, on defense, I'm sure they're getting the exact run, and then they're getting some sort of passing concept. So
Right.
but knowing if it's run or pass is huge. But the run signals are so short they could probably pick that real easy. And okay, it's run to the right. Everybody gonna go over there. And it's like if like I said, hey B Moses, we're gonna play Madden. And I'm going to run it right up the middle. You're going to call goal line, engage 8,
Eight.
yeah, engage 8, and you're not going to care about a safety. You'll probably play as a free safety who's in deep zone coverage. You'll run him through the A gap and crush my guy in the backfield. Because that's how it is. Like when you're screen watching in Madden or Goldeneye, like ain't no friends here. You're trying to win, and like that's kind of what it feels like. And I think that it's going to be Michigan will be a smoldering hole when this thing's over. Because I'm telling you, like this forensic report, when this thing gets leaked, when it's provided to the public, Michigan's only course of action is going to be to fire Jim Harbaugh, clean house, get out. It's kind of like you have to get out in front of the PR posse, because that's where we're at right now. Like again, like this is this has been the strangest year in the history of football for coaches getting fired. Pat Fitzgerald basically was like their Archie Griffin. He was their hero, two-time Butkus winner, All-American, turned down huge NFL opportunities to stay at little old Northwestern. And, those things come up. And, these administrations, they don't wait around for a trial and evidence. I mean, they just move, and they just put a bullet, in that guy's head after, again, he turned down big NFL jobs. And then you look at Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker did some silly stuff. I've known Mel for a long time. Wasn't right. It was dumb. But, they move on him immediately and whack him. Now he's in a nasty lawsuit with them trying to claim wrongful termination. I'm sure it'll I think both those schools are going to be paying both those guys a lot of money to go away. Essentially, I think that they tried to fire those guys for cause. I don't think they're going to be fired for cause. I think they're going to get paid. And they'll probably get some wrongful termination settlement. And then the Harbaugh thing. Like Harbaugh is dead to rights, because I'm telling you, the fact that a forensic accountant showed up, and was able to seize their hard drives and get on their networks and comb through it, go through everything. like we're just getting little like tidbits of what's been leaked and what's been found. So God knows what else they found, who else is implicated, text messages between staffers. Because, again, like I mentioned earlier before you got on because I was with Nevada, is that these are all public entities. Like the cell phone, if it's a University of Michigan cell phone, Michigan owns that. They can go through all the text messages. That has to all go through a security clearance server. So they have access to everything you do. Your emails, nothing is private when you work for a university. So again, like I'm just dying to see what else they find. But we'll keep this thing cranked up. But you get any final thoughts on this thing? This thing's been it's been cranking. This has been a really good show. We appreciate all you guys being on here. What do you think the end result is, and what do you think the timeline is, B. Moses?
I mean, I think, man, it's crazy to even hear that like Harbaugh is going to be fired, but I don't see any other course of action. I think either he's going to resign. I think either he's going to get out in front of it and resign before he gets fired, or he's getting fired. Like it's just I don't see any other way. Now some people are saying, well, it's going to be a long time before anything's done because the NCAA moves slow. But the significance of that Pete Thamel breaking news yesterday of the Big Ten being able to lay down sanctions or step in themselves, I think that was for a reason. I don't think that was put out there just because. Like I'm thinking the Big Ten is actually going to be the ones to step in. Honestly. So I think the timeline is going to be sooner than what people think. And with this being a bye week, they might even try to move before they get back on the field, low key. Like the way the information is coming out, and it's like drip, 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 drip. It's like it's just like more bombs are dropping. It's like I don't see this dragging on too long. I'll say that.
Well, here's my thing. The thing about Jim Harbaugh is he's very abrasive. So Ward Manuel, who's the athletic director, he's still Jim Harbaugh's boss, and they have a very frosty relationship. So the only thing keeping Jim Harbaugh employed at this point is the fact that they're a top 2 team right now. They're undefeated. They're in the midst of a team that could potentially win a national championship. So, Ward's he's got to justify whacking this guy, figuring out who's going to replace him. Because again, like, the hard part about firing Harbaugh is like, so who's his replacement? I mean, obviously, if you put a gun to my head and say Sharon Moore, well, he's right there next to the guy too. And then, then the DC, well, he's next to him too. So it's like, it's hard to fire Jim Harbaugh, promote a coordinator, and they're all complicit in it. And again, that's the fascinating thing is what are the text messages, the emails, the details, the photos, like the correspondence, like that is going to be the fascinating thing to find out. Again, I don't worry about the NCAA because the NCAA moves as slow as a tugboat, but these universities that have, these guys all have, high dollar, $1 million deals with PR firms, for crisis management. And guess what? They all say the same thing. Get out in front of it. Put a bullet in its head. How do you want to kill the story? Michigan's going to get flogged to death until this thing's over. Well, fire Jim Harbaugh. Fire Pat Fitzgerald. Fire Mel Tucker. Fire Jim Trussell. Like, I mean, they don't wait around for the NCAA. They don't wait around for judge, jury, and executioner. They don't wait around for the trial, for the evidence, for the testimony, for this is what I knew, this is what I didn't know. They just fire. And then they, try to pick up the pieces and rebuild the PR campaign. Because that's the only way this is going to happen. Because like with Trust, like I was working for Trust when it all went down. I knew that Sports Illustrated thing was coming out. It didn't quite make it out, but on that weekend where we were getting the rumors it was going to come out on Monday, they flew him in, they fired him on the spot. The article came out Monday after he'd already been, fired. And that's just how these universities move. They don't care about what you've done, wins and losses, because again, in the eyes of the academia and the eyes of the board of trustees, the brand and the university is bigger than any one person. The university is like a giant cruise ship. It keeps on rolling. Even if you get thrown overboard like Jim Harbaugh was about to, that thing keeps on cruising along. They don't think twice about you.
I selfishly want him to stay until Ohio State
until we beat him.
I want him on the sideline, man. Please. Yeah. Like, I don't. It's just, bro. It's crazy. Yeah. I don't disagree with what you're saying.
I want him on the sideline without the plays being whispered to him. Because again, I think it's like if you're the kid in school that somehow gets the answer key to every test, and then all of a sudden you got to take the test without the answer key, probably going to freeze up a little bit. You're probably not going to be, you're like A+ student, valedictorian candidate, and somehow someone's sending you the old test or the answer keys, and you get to take all your tests with the answer key. He doesn't have the answer key anymore because this guy's whacked. And they got to try no funny business now. They're not going to have their reports. They're not going to have their 8 batches of video signals from the Ohio State games. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see how these guys do. Obviously, Purdue's not going to be a factor, but they're going to go play Penn State. Penn State's pretty good. They get their squad healthy. They get their DN back. They get Chop Thompson back. I mean, that'll be a war. That's going to be at Happy Valley. So that'll be a nice. Then they play Maryland, who's one of the better Big Ten teams, and then they got us. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do without the cheat sheet. So any final thoughts, B. Moses? We'll wrap this thing up. This has been a fantastic show. Appreciate all of you guys that have been tuning into this whole thing.
Final thoughts, man. I'm trying to have some focus on Wisconsin, man. I was nervous about this game before the season. Very trap gamey, I thought, before the season on the road at night. I think them boys will still be focused despite what we are focused on, which is the scum scandal. So I'll be probably doing another pod myself before Saturday regarding that game and on McCord. I wanted to touch on some things with McCord, but yeah, it's a lot going on with this scum stuff, so I get it.
Yeah, and real quick, we got a couple super chats to clean up before we go. Joe Drame, appreciate you, brother. You're the best. He thinks that they move quickly. Either go with an indefinite suspension without pay, or they'll force him to resign. I'm thinking by Friday. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll resign. This will be like one of those things where he'll want to get fired. Let's see. My boy M. DeLuca, appreciate you. How does the Big Ten or Michigan allow Michigan to play their next game given the cheating? That is the $1 million question right now. I mean, Big Rob, the new commissioner for the Big Ten, has got a decision to make. I think that, I mean, for the conference, man, again, you got that double-edged sword, B. Moses, where it's like, you put Michigan on the field, there are going to be a lot of eyeballs on that game because everybody wants to see how these guys react, how good they're playing Purdue, who stinks, but when they play like Penn State, like everyone's going to watch the game. How do they do without the cheat code? How do they do without, they're playing without Game Shark and Game Genie now. All of a sudden they got to play the game for real. Like it's a whole different ball of wax now. Is that about where you are with what they're doing and what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, this is unprecedented. So this is all a guess. I don't know what they're going to do, but I do think that the Big Ten, if they wanted to, they could buy time. They can say, hey, we're evaluating this. We're waiting for more information to come in, blah, 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 to buy time for them to finish the season if that's what's in their best interest. Because if you think about it, if they do go ahead and say, you know what, you're getting whacked now. You can't enter the football field for the rest of the season. Like, what is that going to look like? I mean, those games are canceled. I mean, that's a mess, right? So it's just like, I can't even imagine that happening. I'm saying it can't happen. I just can't imagine that happening. So you're right, man. This new Big Ten commish got some heat on his lap right now.
Yeah, this ain't part of the simulation. You don't go to grad school and they say, okay, you just took the job, 6 months ago or whatever. And now, your biggest brand or second biggest brand, one of your two biggest brands is caught in a massive, unprecedented cheating scandal. What do you do? Because again, the other thing is for the Big Ten's prestige, winning a national championship is fun. The SEC has dominated Florida State in the ACC and Clemson a few in the ACC, but outside of Ohio State in 14, like we got a pretty empty trophy case when it comes to national titles. So, Michigan being good is good for the whole of the conference. Now, I hate Michigan, but it just is what it is. Blue Wolverine, this guy's been in here all day. So again, all you Michigan people, make sure you leave us a like and follow the channel because again, you guys have been slugging it out in this chat. It's been pretty funny to watch. OSU fans are begging to not play Michigan in November. You better than that, do better. See, I don't think so. Like, I mean, I want a piece of Michigan. Like, again, you remember, like, I was the first guy to start and beat Michigan 4 times as a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I was the first guy to ever do that. So I love playing Michigan because there's nothing better in the universe than beating Michigan in Ann Arbor. It's the greatest feeling in the world. And I want these kids to experience that after the last 2 years didn't go the way they wanted to. I love this. OSU new saying should be, we don't cheat, we defeat. I love this, my man. Florida 561 stepper. I love that. What kind of ride you got? I kind of like that. Is that a Hellcat? I dig that. So yeah. All right, B Moses. Oh man, you're bringing man, everyone's shouting out B Moses in the chat, man. Appreciate you. B Moses, shout out your socials and where the people can find you, your Facebook, your Twitter, everything. Obviously, you're on BuckeyeScoop.com, one of our contributors, one of the great contributors on BuckeyeScoop.com. Where can everybody find you at?
I gotta start pulling up the chat while I'm on
live. Dude, it's like the Royal Rumble WWF back in the early '90s right now. It's guys going over the top rope.
11:46 in there. So shout out to y'all. I didn't respond because I didn't see y'all's comments. But anyway, so listen, I'm on Twitter. I'm bmoses30 on Twitter. Make sure you follow me. Buckeye Sports Talk with B Moses on Facebook. Got a nice thriving little community there as well. And also the same name, Buckeye Sports Talk with B Moses on Instagram. So follow me on those 3 platforms. And yes, come on over to the Scoop, man, to get some good info.
Yeah, BuckeyeScoop.com. I'm telling you, we're killing it. I know B Moses may have to run it back again, later this week. I mean, this thing's hot. This is one of them hot ones. All of a sudden, it's like every 6 hours, there's a new story breaking, and ESPN's feeding to break something new, and all these newspapers are feeding to break something new. It's like a rat race, and those rats are digging up in Ann Arbor to find that next big layer of intel that they can drop on how deep it was, how bad it was, how sophisticated or unsophisticated it was. So
yeah,
it's all good. Yeah. All right, brother. We're gonna wrap this thing up. Appreciate you, my man.
All right.
As always, we appreciate all of you guys in here, all of my Wolverines in here. You guys are hilarious. Thank you guys for slugging it out, keeping it somewhat civil. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Click subscribe, including you Blue Belly fans. You guys are welcome to subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you for the super chats. You guys are extra generous tonight. Appreciate that. As always, if you enjoy this content, leave us a like. Click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. Go again 7 tomorrow, because every hour there seems to be a new Michigan story breaking. And we are not dodging the Blue Bellies. We're excited to play those guys in November because I think we're going to beat them. So I appreciate you guys as always. Thank you, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. You guys keep slugging it out with those Wolverines on Twitter. And if you guys really want the best Ohio State coverage in the game, join BuckeyeScoop.com, our premium message board. We are breaking news constantly. Bill Green just put up a great piece, interviewed a lot of college coaches about what does this mean? What are the penalties going to be? It is absolutely crazy. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a wild one. I think Jim Harbaugh is done. With that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I'll see you on the message boards. Go Bucks.